we are going to do some twisting practices. And my purpose of thinking this is that, I don't know about you guys, but the world seems to be making me want to slump a little bit, right? This sense of defeatistness that can come into the body when we're overwhelmed. And I think it's really important to have the sense of, like I was speaking the other day, yes, Monday, about having that soft and suppleness to you to be able to adapt and receive what's happening, and to have that sense of stability and length in your spine. So when we twist, the first and foremost thing we need to do is to have a long spine. We need space in between our vertebrae so that when we twist, we are moving from, I always think of it like a staircase that needs to have high risers. So if you have a staircase that's got really low risers and you try to twist on it, there's just a lot of compression. So to me, twists not only are this beautiful pose for the internal organs of compression and release for the internal organs, but it really reminds us that we need to have a lot of length in our spine and space in our spine for us to move into twisting well. So as we age, this gets harder, right? And that our discs get smaller, our risers get smaller. So we need to have even more awareness around keeping the spaciousness in our spine as we move in all directions, not just twisting, but in all directions. So that'll be a primary focus, is to keep the length moving in your spine. And the other thing that I think is really great about twists is that when our breath starts to get very shallow, which happens when we are stressed for most of us, twists give us a reminder that we have we can move resistance against the lungs. So the obliques move in opposition to the diaphragm at times in certain movements. And obliques are what turn us, the muscles along your sides are what turn you. And so when we have those working, it makes the diaphragm have to work just a little bit harder. So it's a reminder, just like the work of keeping the spine long, it's a reminder for the diaphragm, wake up, move, be strong, be awake, be alive, so that you can get the most breath you can, have the most healthy breathing pattern that you can have. So even though breathing in twists, when you're actually in the pose, sometimes can be a little bit challenging, it's actually very therapeutic for the breath to train the diaphragm to move against this resistance. So if you are a shallow breather by nature, or just by circumstance of what we are living in right now, I think it's a really important practice to keep the breath moving deeply into your body. So for those reasons, we're going to do some twisting practices today. All right, so take a moment to close your eyes. Is the sun too much on me? Does it give me a head shake, or no, it's okay? All right, because I feel like with the season change and the leaves on my tree going away, I'm in the sun more in this position. Okay, so sit up straight and tall and take a moment to drop in to your body. Ground yourself. Feel some roots growing. And pay attention to where you are in your pelvis as you sit down. Do you have support? And if you don't, grab something. Stick a blanket or a pillow or something underneath your pelvis so you're not right on the ground. And this creates a lot more ease for your pelvis to move. So notice where your comfort zone is. Do you tend to roll back in the pelvis? Do you tend to roll forward in the pelvis? Can you feel that sense of just even steadiness, where the pelvis is neutral and we have a neutral low back curve, that we're not erasing our curve into flatness and we're not exaggerating our curve. So this is the first primary part of the spine that we want to pay attention to as we move into our practice. So find the neutral, find the comfort, find a position in your seated posture that is easy in your back. And then from there, see what it feels like to yield and stay grounded. And start to feel that your risers in between your vertebrae, your discs, can expand. And instead of feeling like you have to pull yourself up like a puppet string on the crown of your head, imagine that you're inflating your discs like in, a tire pump for your bicycle. See if you can allow the length to come into your spine from each vertebrae, plumping up a little bit. So maybe start visualizing in the very base of your spine and travel upward, kind of giving some nutrients to the discs, even if it's just in your mind. You know, oftentimes our body follows the mind. So visualize what you are wanting the body to feel, and maybe the body will follow. So as you travel upward, see if you can feel that there's a bounciness to your discs, that you're not pulling taut, that there's not tension in your length. So remember, the soft and supple is what gives us this sense of vitality. It's not tight and contracted that gives us vitality. So once you have some space traveling all the way up to the very base of your skull, imagine your skull is resting on a cushion. Especially if you tend to get neck tension, see what it feels like to allow your head to feel just a bit weightless, and like there's a pillow. The discs are pillows for your head to rest upon. So instead of feeling like we have to pull our ears up toward the sky to try to lengthen our spine, can you do this much more organically from the inside out instead of the outside in? And then if we're going to go from the inside out in holding space in our spine, the breath is our deep friend. So come into the breath now. Feed your lungs. Imagine your breath is the bike pump, feeding your lungs and also feeding the discs. Can you allow yourself to feel buoyant, that your that your vertebrae are bobbing on the buoyancy of your discs? Is your neck soft? Melt the base of the skull. Try to find all those little muscles. You might have a little bit of a head bobble to get that softness. Just see what's here. Keep breathing deeply and let your breath out all the way. Pay attention to the diaphragm. How is it moving? Is it feeling sleepy or stuck? Do you need to change your position at all? Are you comfortable? And if not, where do you need to spend a little time in your practice nourishing? Is there any sirens going off in your body as you sit here? All right, let's place the palms together at the heart and bow in. Have a moment to offer an intention for your practice. What do you need buoyancy and stoutness and uprightness and spaciousness for? Let's release the hands and let's come on to our back. All right, so lie down. To your posture on the floor now, allow yourself to spread out. Allow your limbs to broaden. Allow your joints to feel more spacious. Notice how gravity shifts now. Your vertebrae in particular. Pay attention to what the discs feel like as you shift your awareness with gravity. Take a deep breath here. Maybe the breath is easier to come in deeply when you're horizontal, lying down, versus when you're vertical. So let's take a few good breaths here, still melting the base of the skull. Let's go ahead and stretch your arms, lengthen through your sides, okay, and then reach one side, reach the other side. If your arms don't like to be overhead, just put them where they are. They might end up over your chest. You might feel more expansion if you stretch your arms out to the sides. So just find what you're finding. Allow your right leg to stretch a little longer than your left.
Then your left to stretch a little longer than your right. And just feel how much up-down movement your pelvis has. Okay, so just warming up. Some of this movement as we stretch one heel and then stretch the other. This is a lot of warming for a lot of the ligaments and muscles and fascia in your pelvis and low back. So just see what you're feeling. Okay. And then relax your arms. Bring your knees to your chest and rock a little bit. So just another way to warm things up, to soften things up. Deep breaths. All right, let's circle the knees one direction. Try to stay connected to the length of your spine as we move through all of our postures today, not just twisting postures. Let's see what it feels like to keep the air in the tires. We want to keep our discs plump and buoyant. All right, let's right knee come into the chest, left leg long on the floor. Feel some wiggles and sways through your toes. Rolling around through your ankles, feel some compression through your hip, extending through your spine. All right, and then let's change sides. Left knee into the chest, right leg stretches long on the floor. Feel the extension in your spine, roll around in your ankles, move your toes, feel the knee move in and out, whatever you need. And then bring the other knee to join. Let's open our hips, so knees out, knees back in. You can swing in circles, semicircles, straight lines, whatever movement pattern feels nice for your hip joints. Just warm things up. Sense into your body. Feel that sense of interoception that we're noticing what we're feeling. So take your time to pay attention. How are your hip joints? Can you visualize your femur bones inside the hip joint? Put your feet on the ground, arms out to the side. And let's windshield wiper our knees. So our first twisting action. Notice, the sideways. This is a gentle stretch for the obliques when we have our feet wide on the mat. So we're, more windshield wipering our knees than stacking our knees. This is a great pose to start to warm up the sides of our body, the attachments across our pelvis, our ribs. So take some deep breaths. And then stretch your arms and legs out like a starfish. Open your body up. Squeeze through your hands and your feet. And then on your next exhale, draw in knees to your chest. A couple more times. Spread yourself out on your inhale. Exhale and draw yourself in. One more time. Big open space. Exhale. Closed up space. All right, relax your head down onto the ground. Put your feet on the floor, arms out to the sides. Find your belly. Just notice all the space. See if you can center your attention into the deep spine. So in your abdomen, feel the spine behind your organs. See if you can feel the front of your spine. Rest inside the pelvic bowl. See if you can feel the front of your sacrum. So just access your awareness. Come down into the front side of your sacrum. Breathe all the way into the front side of your sacrum. Relax your organs, relax your diaphragm, relax your belly, let your belly receive your breath. Okay, let's place our hands on our belly, anywhere you want, and just befriend with your softer side. Feel your breath underneath your hands. All right, and then let's go ahead and roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and knees. All right, so your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. And let's start moving through some cat-cows. So moving through the vertebrae, relaxing your head, Remember, we're trying to keep those plump discs, and sometimes plumpness comes from a little squeeze and release. So find a little squeeze and release here. As you draw into a scared cat, pull your belly up, hug onto your spine, and then as you arch your back, squeeze the back side of the discs. And just give everything a little squeeze all the way up to your neck. Touch your teeth. And just go back and forth, maybe a teeny bit of a squeeze on one more round. And then find your way into any kind of movement that you want. Try to notice your vertebrae and all the little nooks and crannies, the way the discs relate to, or the vertebrae relate to each other through the disc space. All right, then let's come to a flat back for a moment. Reinvigorate your hands. You can always come onto your fists if your hands are bothering you. And we're going to draw some paintbrush circles on the wall behind us. So your tailbone is taking big, wide circles on the wall behind you. So it's different than circling, with your belly button, which we're going to do in a moment. So at first, just big circles in the pelvis. Let's warm up the low back. Go the other direction for a few circles. Stay with the breath. And then stretch back towards child's pose. Take the hips toward the heels, rest the spine. Breathe now. See if you can let the breath roll underneath the spine. So the front anterior side of the vertebrae. Bring the breath in there. Let it fill up the discs. Open up some space. Relax your head. Melt the base of your skull. And then come back up onto your hands and your knees. And this time your belly button is going to be where your paintbrush is, and paint some circles on the floor. So we're going to drop back over to one side, forward, over to the other side, and drop back. And maybe not all the way to child's pose, but just have some movement in the hip joints now, which is a little different than movement in the SI joint and in the low back. So just feel, your pelvis is pretty complicated. There's a whole lot going on, and it's a center point of receiving the energy of the legs into the torso. Let's switch directions, paint the other way. Are you staying with the breath? All right, and then stretch back towards child's pose one more time. Walk the hands over to the left side. Open up the right rib cage. Relax the base of the skull. Buoyancy of the breath on the anterior surface of the vertebrae. Travel down the breath all the way to the anterior surface of your sacrum. All right, let's come back to center. Inch over to the other side. Relax your forehead. Extend through the spine. Base of the skull is soft. Receive the breath. All right, then come back to the center. Come up onto your hands and your knees. And let's find our first big twist. So reaching the arms up in the air, exhale, and slide the shoulder down. Open up the space higher in your ribs now. So breathe still into the anterior portion of the spine, but feel it in your thoracic spine. Open up the space, spread out open through the rhomboids. Relax your neck, melt the head. Are you starting to feel that restriction that the obliques and the diaphragm have in opposition to each other? Inhale, reach that arm all the way back up. Place the hand down onto the ground and change sides. Left arm lifting, drop that shoulder, gaze toward the floor. Press your hand into the ground, shoulders away from the ears, thigh bones come back. Can you feel the breath touch inside? What's it feeling on the inside of your spine? All right, And come back to lifting that arm to the sky, and then come back to all fours and notice, what did the spinal twist, what's the impression on your spine? What's the lingering impression from that? So if you have pain from twisting, be very mindful as you move through your practice. Curl your toes under and come up to dog pose. Sometimes less is more. So don't think deep is better. Space is better. Stability is better. Breath is better. All these things are much more important than cranking deeply into any posture of any kind, including this one. So do you need your knees to bend to have more stability and ease? Do you need your elbows to bend? What's giving you that sense of your breath traveling through your spine well? Feel free to move around any way you want to be moving around. Rest the head. The head is heavy. Let it rest. Feel all the muscles that hold your head up relax for a moment. And then let's walk your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Fold in half. Relax your head. Bend your knees as much as you want to. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine grows. The legs are starting to warm. Exhale and melt back down. Push off your feet and come to rise up. Reaching the arms to the sky. Lean back, cactus, open the arms. If it feels good, open the front body and then release your arms down. All right, now shake out your hands. You can do this quickly or slowly. You can do some wrist rolls, whatever feels good, but just let some energy out through your hands. Feel your roots grow into your yielding with your feet. Open up your diaphragm as you're doing this. And when you exhale, see what it feels like to exhale through some pursed lips, a nice slow exhale, deep breath in, relax. As you exhale, you can stop shaking your hands, feel the energy that's run down into your fingers. Root that energy into your feet, ground. As you ground, try not to collapse. Feel the buoyancy through your spine. Feel the buoyancy on the inhale. Let it lift you up, expand you. As you exhale, keep the buoyancy, but let the tension go. Inhale, lifting the arms to the sky. Big swan dive down, fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Back to the legs, stretching open. Exhale and melt back down. Grab your blocks. Okay, the right foot forward. The left foot is coming back. Come into a lunge here, extending the spine forward. Take your time to get into your lunge. Feel what it feels like. You can always put your back knee onto the floor if you need some more support. Let's start to bend and straighten that front knee. So just opening up the hamstrings to the place that's comfortable for you. Have a moment of pause where you tuck the chin toward the chest and feel that full back line open up. Just hang out there for a moment. And then start to move again. Okay, just going back and forth. So we're opening up the hamstrings, the back line of the body. And we're also opening up the hip flexors of the back leg as we come into a lunge. All right, so come into a lunge. Put your knee down on the ground or lift it up. So remember, this is gentle yoga, so you can always take, even if it isn't gentle yoga, you can take any kind of support that your body is needing. All right, let's rise up. So when you come up, can you find the length of the spine? Where did your arms need to be to give you that capacity to feel the length of the spine, the buoyancy between the ribs, the buoyancy between the vertebrae? See how much spaciousness you can get? Use your leg muscles to support you so that you're not leaning into your low back. Breathe deeply. And then exhale and release your hands down toward the ground. Let's take our right hand on our right thigh. Put your left hand on your block and just very gently start to twist. And let the front side of your hip flexors on that back leg open a little bit. Feel the extension through your spine. Take some deep breaths, open across your collarbones. Deep breaths here. And then let's go ahead and find our way back down. Walk the front foot back.
either come into a plank or a cat-cow. So you decide whether you want, how, where your strength is today, where your shoulders, what your shoulders are feeling like today. Whichever you're doing, feel the stability on your exhales. Come into that state of hugging toward the midline of the body. Let's come down onto the ground and notice the difference between your two sides of your legs, having done those poses on one side and not the other. Inhale, come up to a low, gentle cobra pose. Exhale and come back down. That was our warm up. We're going to stay in this one for a few breaths. So roll the shoulders before we go. Shoulders up toward the ears, toward the sky, and back down. Find some slide and glide of your shoulder blades. And then stabilize them down. Engage through your core. Feel your legs move into the earth. The tailbone's long. The glutes are engaged. Lift up. Don't go very high. Hang out here for a moment and feel the breath touch the vertebrae again. Can your discs be buoyant here? All right, and then exhale and melt back down. Come up onto all fours. Don't go back into child's pose just yet. Just swirl around and feel whatever it is that you need to feel. Finding the breath. And then we're going to put our our left foot forward, come into a lunge on the second side. So you can keep your knee down for a moment, stretch your heart open, feel the length of the spine. And then when we're ready, let's start to move. So you can do this with your back knee on the floor and come into half Hanumasana if you want, or you can lift your back knee up and come into our more traditional warm-up of the legs. So have a couple of passes through the movement of bending your front knee and straightening your front knee. And then take a pause. Square the hips, bow in, tuck the chin just a bit toward the chest. So you really feel that full line from the bottom of your foot, back of your leg, through your hip, your sacrum, up your spine to the base of your skull. Take some breaths into the sensation you feel. Inner spiral your legs. And then coming back into a lunge. You can put your knee down or keep it off the ground, whatever you did on the other side. Find some balance, some symmetry. So try to do the same on this side. And as you're ready, come on up. So where do you want your arms to be? What's going to give you that sense of openness, spaciousness through the heart, the lungs, through the spine? Can you use your legs? So regardless of where your arms ended up, use your legs. Push them into the floor. Hug them toward each other. Find the midline with your inner thighs. Support yourself with your strong muscles so that the vertebrae can be buoyant. Breathing deeply. All right, and then we're going to find this gentle twist. Left hand on knee or thigh. Right hand comes onto the block. Find your lunge, stabilize with your leg muscles, open up your chest. And notice, I find that this side is very different from twisting on the other side. I'm a lot more open on one side than the other, so I don't know if you have a different sensation on one side versus the other. How is your breath? All right, let's go ahead and release. Walk your back foot forward this time. Come into Uttanasana and fold. Relax. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Push off your feet and rise up again. Shake out your hands one more time. Feel your yielding. Take a deep breath. Okay, now we're going to open up a lot of the muscles in our thoracic spine. So you guys have done this lots with me. Your feet can be wider than your hips or in line with your hips, however is comfortable for you. And we're just going to swing. So this is really good for the muscles along the thoracic spine and the opening the chest. Let the pelvis move. So we're not trying to be restrictive, and we're letting the pelvis go with the head, go with the arms. So the back foot that you're turning away from pivots and heel lifts off the floor. Find your breath. Is there length in your spine? Is there buoyancy in your vertebrae? All right, And then relax that and go ahead and come back to center. Feel what it feels like. Yield into the earth again. Close your eyes. Is your spine becoming alive? All right, now let's work with the very top of our spine. So I'm not a big fan of neck rolls. I think this is a lot of strain on the ligaments in your cervical spine. So we're just going to go each direction. So allow the hands to come down behind the back. Okay, grab onto the left wrist with the right hand and find your breath. Lift and open your chest and lift the ear up away from the shoulder. Feel those muscles along the side of your neck, and feel free to drop your chin a little bit and lift your chin a little bit so you can go into a little bit of range of motion in the neck without spinning big circles. Find your breath. We often don't think about our cervical spine as being part of our twisting. We focus a lot on the lumbar and thoracic spine, but this is an integral part of our vertebrae. Going back to center, grab onto the other wrist. Try not to pull your wrist down so you're staying even through your shoulders. Reach up through your ear. Try not to think about collapsing the other side. Think about lengthening, broadening across the collarbones. Are you still able to yield? Are you still breathing? Is your diaphragm open? How is the feeling of buoyancy? How is the softness in your belly, the buoyancy between your vertebrae? And then come back to center. Touch your teeth. Lift your jaw. Touch your teeth to each other. Extend upward. And then go ahead and bow your chin in. Reach your hands behind your head. Base of your hands at the base of your skull and round your spine forward. As you pull in just a little bit, just feel the back body lengthen, all those muscles along the vertebrae open. Deep breath into the anterior portion of your spine again. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine gets longer. Exhale and melt back down. Step the left foot back. Shorten up your stance. Square the hips. Extend the spine. So just like we did in the beginning, see if you can keep the hips square and bow the chin in toward the chest. Notice the back line. Open up now the posterior aspects of your vertebrae. Breathe into there. All right, let's go ahead and come back up. Bring the hands wherever you want them to be. So arms can come out or up or down. Open your breath. Extend and lengthen. Zip up a zipper from your pubic bone to your heart all the way back. Maybe your head leans back. Maybe it doesn't. Exhale and come forward. So don't worry about how far you go. Start to really work the legs. So stabilizing with the muscles. Your glutes are working hard. That front heel is pressing down. The front big toe is pressing down. Extend the spine. Buoyancy. Inflate your tire tubes. Come on up and walk the back foot forward. Reach the arms up. Take a deep breath here. Exhale, release your hands. Interlace behind your back. Open across the collarbones. Bend your knees and melt. As you come forward, relax the base of the skull. So soften all those tense muscles. Our heads are so heavy. We hold a lot of tension in our necks often when we are stressed. So see what you can let go. Release the hands down onto the ground. Halfway lift. The sit bones are lifting. Feel the inner spiral. The knees are soft. Exhale and melt back down. Second side, so left foot forward, right foot back. Remember, you can always take the left foot out to the side more if you need more stability. Our stance is shorter than a lunge. Climb back up, put your arms where you want them to be. Pause here for a moment and feel your stability. Ground yourself. Feel the buoyancy of your vertebrae. Lift up into space without being pulled on a tub. You're not having a string on the top of your crown. We're inflating from the inside out. Find your hands where you want them to be. Come forward. Okay, so wherever you go, it doesn't have to be super deep, only where your legs can support your spine, but make it so that you have to work for it a bit. So root into the feet, inner spiral the legs. The glutes are having to work. So to help your glutes push that front heel into the ground to activate a little bit more. Extend the spine. Feel both anterior and posterior portions of the spine inflate now. Can you bring your breath, swirl it all around the vertebrae? Shoulders are away from the ears. And then come back up. Doesn't matter how far in you went. Reaching the arms to the sky. Find your breath, lean back. Maybe your arms are out, maybe they're down. Just have a little bit of a back bend. And exhale and walk your back foot forward. Pause here again, shake out the hands. Bounce a little bit if it feels good. And one of the best things we can do for the buoyancy of our vertebrae is to feel the rebound from the floor. So even if you're not jumping, even if you're not leaving the ground, bounce a little bit so you can feel the jiggle all the way up through the spine. Move your breath. Let your belly receive it. All right, and then relax. Find your grounding. What are you feeling in your spine? Are you buoyant in the vertebrae? Do you feel that sense of being able to keep the heart open without compressing, without forcing? Are you connected to the feet? Reach your arms up, take a deep breath in. Exhale and fold all the way down. Fold in half. Relax the spine. Halfway lift. Grow a little bit longer. Exhale and melt. Step your left foot back. We're in a big long lunge now, extending the spine. Your back knee can come on the floor or stay up off the ground. We're going to find any variation of a twist here that we want. So perhaps your hand's going to stay on the block. Perhaps your hand's going to be on the floor. Maybe your forearm is going to come onto your knee, maybe your elbow. There's so many ways to either lessen this posture or deepen this posture. So remember, we want some compression around our diaphragm. So feel the obliques do the turning for you. Can you feel how the diaphragm has to resist against the obliques? See if you can enjoy that sensation of compression. This is what's teaching us to open up more when we let go. Hug into the midline. Use your legs. This is where you're stable from. And then release the hands. Come back to center. Come back onto all fours. Find a movement of some swirls or sways. So do you like to switch your hips left and right? Do you like to circle them? How's your head? And then let's go ahead and find the other side. So bring your other foot forward. So now we're coming into left foot forward, right foot back. Back knee is off the floor, back knee is down on the floor, whatever feels right. You can take your front foot out to the side for a broader base. Remember, we're finding the spine before we do anything else. So knee up or knee down, find that sense of crescent lunge. It doesn't matter where your arms end up. Find the buoyancy of the spine. Feel the support of your legs. Ground, root, and then find whatever twist you're going to do. So whether the forearm is going to come to the knee or the thigh, whether the elbow crosses over, whether the hand is on a block or on the floor. So take any variation of the twist that is right for your body. Where do your arms want to be? Can you feel the length of the spine? Feel the roots of your legs, your feet. Hug into the midline. Your leg muscles are your grounding. They're your stability. So use them. Activate what you can so that the spine is free to move. Find the breath. Use your obliques to twist. Find your exhales, hugging, kind of compress in. So if you're doing that tire tube thing, see what it feels like to squeeze it all on the exhale. And then come back to center. And this time, when we take that foot back, we're going to come to a plank. So stabilize through your core. If you need to put your knees down, if your shoulders aren't working so perfectly, that's so fine. You can work with the core no matter what you're doing with your legs. So if you need less pressure for your shoulders, take it. Open up the spine. Spread open the collarbones. Take a deep breath in. Full exhale. Okay, let's put our knees down onto the ground and stretch back to child's pose for a minute. Take what you need. Okay, so perhaps before we come into a back bend, just feel the spine, feel the breath travel along the spine. And then as we come down onto the floor to lie on our belly, we're going to come into Sphinx pose. So elbows are underneath the shoulders. Palms can be facing each other or down. Shoulders are away from the ears like we did before. And feel the length of the spine. Notice where you tend to divot. Where's the compression spot in your body? Bring some buoyancy and space there. What can you fill in? Let's go ahead and melt. Come back down onto the ground. Okay, come up onto your hands and your knees one more time. Find your breath. Okay, we're going to come into bird dog. Left leg straight back behind you, right arm out in front of you. Feel the stabilization. These muscles along your spine really help to hug the vertebrae toward each other. So if we're going to try to stabilize, these multifidus muscles are what we want. They're what keeps us stable as we twist, keep us stable as we try to lengthen. So hug in, feel the front and the back support. And exhale and release that knee down onto the ground. Change sides. Notice your balance points on both sides. Are you more familiar, more comfortable in one pattern than the other? Can you feel your abdominal muscles working for you? So your transverse abdominis and your obliques are working here. They're not passive. Keep the neck relaxed. Find the breath moving against the resistance of the core. And then release that hand and knee down onto the ground. Come onto your back for a moment. Lie down. Find the neutral spine again, so just enjoy the way gravity changes. Take a deep breath into your soft places. Melt. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit of oblique work. We're going to do it in two different ways. So the first is to interlace the hands behind the head. So remember, this is a pillow. Remember the first feeling we had of resting the skull on a pillow. Let's find that again here. We're going to lift our chest up. Try not to pull the elbows in toward each other because this will yank on your head. Leave your elbows wide. Rest your head down. And we're going to, with our elbows wide, we're going to drop our left elbow toward our left hip. Keep looking up at the sky. And then back and drop our right elbow toward our right hip. So notice what kind of funky things you end up doing with your pelvis. See if you can stabilize your hips, ground your feet just a bit. Breathe. Let the exhales be enjoyable. So as you compress in on your side, enjoy this. This is that, if we're using that analogy of the bike pump, when you press down, you have that squeeze of air. Let's do one more each side. Try to keep your neck soft. Rest your head in your hands. Elbows are kind of wide. And then relax for a moment. Let everything go. Enjoy your soft. Notice how much room you have for your diaphragm. Take a deep breath. Enjoy that the diaphragm has no resistance or less resistance. Okay, now this next one. So the obliques both side bend us and twist us. So now we're going to do a similar thing, but with a twist. So the knees are going to come up. The arms are not going to be behind our head. They're going to be out to the side. So classic belly turning pose. And we're going to drop our knees toward our elbows and lift them back up. And they don't have to go very far to get the impact of this posture both in your spine, your obliques, and your internal organs. So a little bit can go a long way. So don't have the goal of touching your knees to your elbows. Of course, you can touch your knees to your elbows. So just go as far as you'd like into the posture. Make sure your breath and your back are supporting you. Deep breaths as you move here. Exhale on the way down. Inhale on the way back up. What does this feel like in your center body? Can you feel how twisting, you're not wringing out your internal organs, but you certainly are putting compression and expansion on your whole abdominal cavity when you do this. Very good for increasing blood flow to our center body. All right, so try to finish on the side you didn't start out, you did not start on that. I'm not sure if I said which way to go first. And then once you're done, spread out like a starfish. Your legs are stretched open. Your arms are too.
Melt yourself, yield your whole body into the floor, especially the base of your skull, and take some big belly breaths. Enjoy the freedom for your diaphragm. Enjoy the freedom in your spine. All right, let's go ahead and roll over onto our side and use your arms to push yourself up, come back to dog pose. Sometimes it's hard to get back up, so sorry for making you get back up, and just feel the length. Enjoy what the diaphragm feels like here. Now our exhales are so passive in their capacity to deflate our lungs. So notice when you are hips above heart, gravity helps the diaphragm exhale. So feel the full soft exhale. Enjoy all the space for your inhale. Lengthen the spine, buoyancy, spaciousness in the discs. Let's lift our right leg up in the air. Take a deep breath. Walk your foot forward. Come into a lunge. Shorten up your stance. Come on up to stand. So you're going to have a choice here in how deep you want to go in this pose. Perhaps working with the obliques, or just going to stay upright and twist to the side this way. This is a gentle version, so you get to decide. Or you can lift your arm up in the air and bring it hand down onto block or blocks. You can stack blocks up higher and come into revolved triangle pose. Inner spiral of the thighs. Root the feet. Remember, the legs are where our strength comes from. Try not to let the hip push out to the side. Hug that right hip in toward the midline. The spine grows. The neck is soft. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Put your arms where you want them to be. Maybe you turn your head to find that full twist. Maybe you don't, and your head either turns straight or perhaps even goes in the oppositional space and turns toward the floor. So whatever feels nice. Where are you finding the buoyancy in your vertebrae? How is the breath moving with the obliques? All right, let's go ahead and release and relax. Walk your back foot forward. Fold in half, bend your knees, notice your spine. How are you? Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Step your other foot back. Come into Parsvottanasana, legs on this side. Remember, a wider stance can be helpful, so you can take your front foot out to the side more. Decide whether you're doing a standing up twist with arms out or hands on hips. Decide whether you're doing a revolved triangle pose. Reaching the arm, placing it on a block or two blocks, extending the spine. Try not to let the hip push out to the side. Hug it in. Whatever pose you're choosing, root the feet. Feel the stability all the way through to your hips. Find the spaciousness into your vertebrae. So as we reach our crown and tail away from each other, remember, try not to just be pulling on strings. Move from the inside out. Move the twist from the inside out as well. Using your obliques, using your exhales to find incremental twisting in this pose. Try not to go too far. Remember to inner spiral the thighs. How is your breathing? Can you feel the diaphragm and the rib cage and the obliques working? In some ways, they're working against each other. There's oppositional forces, which is very stabilizing. And then release and relax. Go ahead and walk your back foot forward and go ahead to stand. Okay? Rise up, a little bit of a back bend here. Lean back, open your chest. And then we're going to fold and come all the way to the floor. So come on down. Anytime you do some twisting, you always want to complete with some back bending. We're going to do one seated twist, but before we do that, we're going to come into a bridge pose. Heels down onto the ground. Choose if you want to do this passively or actively with the block. Take a deep breath in and open up your chest. Arms move into the earth if you're moving actively. If you're passive, the block is underneath your sacrum. Feel the roots of your feet. Open the belly. And then let's lower. Come down. We're going to repeat that in a moment. But first, just roll over onto your side and come on up to sit.
The legs are turned over to one side, so our feet are resting on the right. You're going to stretch or put the top of your right foot in the arch of your left. I always like to put a blanket underneath my opposite sit bone, so your left sit bone. This helps me to keep my pelvis stable, so my left and right hip bones are at the same height instead of one hiked up. Find your breath, reach your arm to the sky, bring it to the outside of the knee. Maybe you're bringing it to the inside of the other knee, so you decide how deep into the twist you go. One of the things I like about this twist is that it stretches the obliques instead of having them compress so much. So let's allow that. Let's open up after working those muscles so much. Drop the shoulders. Maybe your head wants to keep going with the turn all the way, even your eyes. Maybe your head wants to turn back in an oppositional twist, like wringing out a sponge. Come back to center. Let's move the blanket underneath the other sit bones. Now it's under the right sit bone. Your feet are off to the left. Top of your left foot rests in the arch of your right. Your knees are hip width apart. Find your breath. You can go on as much height as you need to. And if your knees are unhappy in this posture, choose a different twist. You guys know lots of twists to do. Hand behind you to support you. If you feel high, if you're up on a high height, you can always put a block underneath your hand. Reach the arm to the sky and place it to the outside of the knee or the inside of either the inside of the left knee or the outside of your right knee. Drop the shoulders. Remember, our head's on a cushion. Turn the head wherever you want, back or forward. Stay rooted in your sit bone. Can you drop the hip down? Can you not compress the upper rim of the left side of your SI joint? Broaden the left SI joint. How's your breath? All right, and come back to center. We're going to do heart bench in a moment, but first, just one more bridge pose. Okay, so shoulders down. Choose whether you want to do it actively or passively. Get onto the tops of the shoulders, root the feet. Open the breath. Feel the stability through the pelvis. Twists have a way of kind of messing with the SI joints sometimes, so let's hug them in, stabilize them, feel the feet. Big belly breath. And then come back down. Roll over onto your side. And we're going to come into heart bench. And I'm going to show you a little different way today. So block lower height of the blocks. So mid height under your head. And then depending on your height, you can have the block turned this way or this way on its lowest height. And then if you have a blanket, let's put a blanket over top of everything today. So we're just a little bit softer in our posture. And as you come to rest, you might need to adjust the blankets and adjust the blocks. So you can move that block in between your shoulder blades up or down, kind of discover where's the right spot for you. Your feet can be flat on the ground, your legs can be wide like starfish, your legs can be close. Your soles of your feet can come together in Baddha Konasana. So however you want to be in this posture, the most important thing we're doing is just opening up the vertebrae a bit after some twisting. So make sure you are comfortable. Adjust the blocks. Lately, I've been wanting the block that's underneath my spine to be lower than I used to. So don't assume what worked yesterday is exactly what your body wants today. So play around, explore, and then find your way into breath. Open up the diaphragm. Let this help you to open up the diaphragm. Relax your head. Relax your eyes.
If our goal is to have that sense of buoyancy and spaciousness, that we can hold ourselves upright with soft suppleness, is this pose helping you? Now let's come out of there by bending your knees, coming onto your side, tuck into a little ball for a moment. You can even keep your head on the block. Take a breath, breathe into the back side of the vertebrae. And as we find our way onto our back, bring your knees to your chest. You can either do happy baby pose or just a knees to the chest pose. We're going to have some openness in the lumbar spine. Feel free to move, rocking side to side, anything that's nourishing to you. So I would suggest for Shavasana to put your legs up on something. So if you have a couch close by or a chair, otherwise take your blocks and make a bolster out of them. So the two blocks are long next to each other, and then the blanket is on top of the blocks so that you can come into a supported posture. So either the knees up on some sort of bolster that you make, or your calves up on a chair or a couch or a bed, whatever you've got going on. So once you find the support, melt. Imagine that you have a sandbag on your pelvis, a weighted blanket across your shoulders. Ground yourself. Imagine that I was putting my hands on your knees and kind of pushing your knees into your pelvis. Ground your pelvis. Find those long exhales and allow yourself to melt. The eyes are soft. The head is supported. The neck is relaxed. Do you have that sense of buoyancy? Let yourself melt into Shavasana.
Let's begin to deepen your breathing. Deep inhales and exhales. Enjoy all the space in your body for breath. Let's find our way into movement. So perhaps having a big stretch, arms overhead. Let's find our way into a tucked little ball and roll over onto your side. As you're ready, lift yourself up, come to a seated posture. Take a big, deep, full breath. Enjoy the open heart without compression in the back body. Feel all the space you have. Feel the length of your spine without the compression of pulling yourself on the string. Feel yourself, expand yourself from the inside out. Let's offer our energy. Share with someone you know who needs some support. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.